We first met him as the kid brother to Jack and Bobby, and yet Edward, Teddy, was the survivor. The one we watched grow old, evolve into the patriarch, and struggle with the challenge and burden of carrying the Kennedy torch. Edward Moore Kennedy was born February 22, 1932, the last of Joe and Rose Kennedy's 9 children. His first prominent role in the family business of politics came at age 30. JFK was elected president, and Teddy kept his Senate seat in the family.
The President of the United States is dead.
He was 31 when he said goodbye to Jack. 5 years later, in 1968, another assassination, another goodbye. Bobby this time. Often invoking his brothers, Ted Kennedy turned to make his mark in the Senate in the 60s and 70s, a proud liberal, champion of voting rights and civil rights. In 1980, he set his sights on the White House.
The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
He would not be president, but he would master the Senate and make his mark on government policy.
If we really care about work, about families, about children, and the future, we will vote for an increase in the minimum wage for all workers.
Fighting for workers' rights, leading on education and health care reform.
It's morally right. It's what this nation is all about.
And immigration reform.
Jalisco, 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 tu tienes tu novia, me Guadalajara. Muchacha bonita, la perlas masra, en todo Jalisco es me Guadalajara.
I described Ted Kennedy as the last lion in the Senate. Held that view because he remains the single most effective member of the Senate if you want to get results.
Even though we fight each other most of the time, and those are knockdown, drag-out battles, I have to say there are very few people in my lifetime that I've had more respect and now reverence for than Senator Kennedy.
All too often it fell to Uncle Teddy, the patriarch, to steer the family through trials and tragedy. The death of Jackie Onassis, a more painful goodbye to JFK Jr., and the dreams of Camelot.
For me, this is a season of hope. New hope for a justice and fair prosperity for the many, and not just for the few. New hope. And this is the cause of my life. New hope that we will break the old gridlock and guarantee that every American, north, south, east, west, young, old, will have decent, quality health care as a fundamental right and not a privilege.
We now have a special guest, Ted Sorensen, who is special counsel to President John F. Kennedy. He joins us by phone right now. Ted, thank you very much for joining us. I'm halfway through your book. Tell us about Ted Kennedy.
Well, I've known Ted Kennedy since he was a college student 55 years ago, and I've always been impressed with his warmth, his strength. He's probably the best politician of the whole family.
What is it that led you and Greg Craig and Ted Kennedy to endorse Barack Obama? What is the common spirit of the surviving Kennedy crowd that leads you to Barack Obama?
Because Barack Obama is more like John F. Kennedy than any candidate since Bobby.
Here's what's happening right now. You see the waving of flags. They're seeing the proceedings. Here comes Senator Kennedy walking with the assistance of a cane, wearing a fedora today, a bright blue scarf. Senator Kennedy, of course, in the middle of treatment for newly discovered brain cancer, and Tom, one of the Lions of Washington.
He is.
We'll get some video just into MSNBC, a great sight from Fenway Park where Senator Ted Kennedy tossed out the first pitch for the Red Sox. The game was supposed to be yesterday. It was postponed due to the weather. Fans were applauding. They gave him a standing ovation. You see there, he came out with a cane, but was walking well. Observation-wise, he looks a little thinner, but that smile still very much in place.
One of your most distinguished senators, known in every continent, and a great friend. I want to announce, awarded by Her Majesty the Queen, on behalf of the British people, an honorary knighthood for Sir Edward Kennedy.
In a moving moment after the Prime Minister's speech, Ted Kennedy's son, Congressman Patrick Kennedy, embraced and shook hands with Prime Minister Brown. Senator Kennedy, who was fighting brain cancer, could not attend the speech, but he did release this statement. I'm deeply grateful to Her Majesty the Queen and to Prime Minister Brown for this extraordinary honor. For me, this honor is moving and personal, a reflection not only of my public life, but things that profoundly matter to me as an individual.
To Sir Edward Kennedy. That's the kind of greeting a knight deserves.
Now we turn to Cape Cod in Massachusetts, where 2 days after the diagnosis of a malignant brain tumor, Senator Ted Kennedy again today took to the water. It was a blustery day along the Cape, but the wind was right for sailing, and our cameras were there when the senator, his wife Vicky, and their 2 dogs passed by. As the senator approached, beyond him you could see the house on the family compound where the president used to live.
This is the best place in the world. A little bustier today, but it's marvelous.
Just yesterday, hours after getting out of the hospital, the senator was out on the water. On his return trip to the dock today, he talked about the outpouring following first word of his illness and now his fight against a tough diagnosis.
They were just spectacular up there. All the nurses and doctors, and you can see the incredible amount of wonderful notes and letters from friends and colleagues in the Senate, and as well as from people here in Massachusetts. It's always very touching.
Ted Kennedy also talked about the water. His boyhood history is here. This coastline has always been the Kennedy family's natural state. Generations of us watched the former president sail these same Atlantic waters, technically Nantucket Sound. And today his brother was asked what he gets out of a day like today.
You know, sort of an aspect of life that always has been someplace we grew up on, learned to swim on and to sail on. And it's been an enormous resource, enriching experience.
I love you. And I miss you. And Irma, my darling wife, Irma, we want to say thank God for you, Ted. Thank God for you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Hey, Chip. Thank you. Thank you.